In JoJo Bizarre Adventure, there are over 150 stands, and not only does the vast majority of them look different, and sometimes weird, but some of them even possess crazy abilities. I read all 8 parts of JoJo Bizarre Adventure to determine what are the top 10 strongest stands from the series. I won't be including part 9 because it's not finished yet, and since this is my list, that means it's my opinion, so if you disagree, suck the tip. But with that, let's begin with the number 10 spot, the world. If you don't know, the world is used by one of the main villains, being Dio. And this stand has a fairly simple ability, being time stop, which allows it to stop time for up to 5 seconds, only allowing Dio to move while time is stopped. But since it's only 5 seconds, Dio has to get close to the enemy so it can be effective. Sadly though, there is a stand that used this ability better than it, being the number 9 spot, Star Platinum, the world. Star Platinum, the world is a stand used by Jojo or Jojo. If you're wondering why I put them at a higher spot even though they both possess the same ability, that's easy, because they already fought and Jojo won already. So that's why I decided this ranking, so there will be no more on that. So with that, let's get to the number 8 spot, which is the stand known as Metallica used by Risotto. This stand has the ability to freely manipulate iron up to anywhere from 5 meters to 10 meters. Going on that, you probably think the stand is weak, but it's actually pretty strong given the fact that it can change the shape of iron into something like razors or scissors. Also being freely able to manipulate the iron within someone's blood, or having manipulate iron particles to make itself invisible. The only thing that truly holds this stand back is its range. Sadly though, even if it did have better range, there is no one higher on this list that he will be able to beat with it, like the person who's next on the list, number 7, King Crimson. King Crimson is used by the main villain of part 5, being Diablo. And being the main villain means you obviously have to have a good ability. So let's talk about his first ability, being Epitaph. Epitaph basically just gives the user the ability to see 10 seconds into the future. This is a good ability because not only does it prevent him from being snuck attacked, but it also pairs well with his other ability, that being Time Erasure, which allows him to skip 10 seconds into the future, so he's not erasing time, it's more like he's just fast forwarding it. Plus, Diablo is still allowed to move while he's in his skip time, freely that is, like he did in his final fight against the main cast of part 5. Number 6, Made in Heaven. This is a stand that was used by Father Pucci that underwent transformations throughout the whole series and gained a fairly simple ability, and that ability being time acceleration, meaning that everything in the universe accelerates, except people, to an alarming degree. This makes this a good stand because since it's constantly accelerating, it's constantly getting faster, making it nearly impossible to deal with. Well, except for the people ranked higher than him, like at the number 5 spot. D4C Love Train, another stand that went through the process of evolving. This stand has a few abilities, like with one being the Dimensional Barrier. The Dimensional Barrier is a wall of light that he hides behind, that if you attack it, the attack will be redirected to somewhere else. If you're wondering why that's the case, it basically, when something hits this wall of light, it takes away all the misfortune and basically leaving only good fortune left, and sending the misfortune onto someone else. The user of the stand, Funny Valentine, also has the ability to travel to parallel dimensions as long as he puts himself in between 2 objects. Speaking of this parallel ability though, it can also work as like a type of one-shot mechanic. If you're wondering how, let me explain to you real quick. If D4C brought 2 people from different worlds to the same one, they will both die, because they are not allowed to be in the same world or exist at the same time. And the only exception to this is Funny Valentine, the stand user. And since this rule doesn't apply to Funny Valentine, if you were to kill Funny Valentine, the stand would go to a different world or parallel world to get a new Valentine, making it near impossible to kill him. But obviously, since there's 4 slots left, that means 4 people are capable of doing it. So let's get to the 4th place, Golden Experience Requiem. This is another evolved stand, evolving from Golden Experience and used by Jojo, the main character of part 5. Obviously, he retains his abilities like Light Giver and things of such, but the reason he's on the list aren't because of those abilities. Because of the ability he gained upon evolving, and that would be Return to Zero. This basically allows GER to manipulate actions to a great extent. Or to put it in simpler terms, imagine cause and effect. Every time you try to attack him, aka the cause, GER removes the effect as a whole, aka hitting GER making it never happen in the first place. So that means the conclusion will never be reached as long as GER is a thing. Plus, he has one more ability called the Infinite Death Loop. This one is fairly simple. If you're killed by GER, you are put in an infinite death loop where you are doomed to die for all eternity. And to the best of our knowledge, or my knowledge at least, there is no way out of this. So if you get put in this, you're doomed to suffer, basically. By the way, let's get on to the number 3 spot, Tusk at 4. This stand is primarily used by the main character of Part 7, Johnny Joestar. And this stand underwent the process of evolving 3 times and gaining an ability that put him over everyone below him, and that ability will be the infinite rotation. Let me explain. If someone were to get hit by this ability, they will start to spin for infinity, forever basically, until they die, because it doesn't just spin the person themselves, it spins everything about the person, down to their cells and molecules. Plus, if someone has tracking, meaning if you're not careful, the nail that was shot with infinite rotation will eventually hit its target. But say if it hit an object instead, the infinite rotation will remain in that object for all eternity, meaning that if you were to step on that object, you'll be hit with infinite rotation. Plus, Tusk at 4 also has the ability to go a little above logic. What I mean by that is he performed the feat of breaking through Funny Valentine barrier. And I remind you, this barrier was a dimensional barrier, one that keeps out misfortune and only allows good fortune in. Enough of that though, let's go on to the number 2 spot, Soft and Wet and Go Beyond. This stand belongs to Josuke of Part 8 and is more on the weirder side when it comes to abilities, because this ability is bubble generation. The bubbles that he creates can be used for a number of things, like shooting them at high speed towards people, trapping enemies, hiding himself in, or just deflecting attacks. He also has an ability called Plunderer, which allows him to take physical properties, such as water from people's body, or people's eyesight. He also has an ability called Explosive Pop. Basically, it is what it sounds like, the bubbles explode. He can also make them explode next to each other to make it go faster, or propel each other. But those aren't the reason he's on his list. The reason he's on his list is because of the attack he developed later on. Unfortunately though, it doesn't have a name, so basically I'll just explain it. Soft and Wet has the ability to create bubbles that don't exist in the same world, meaning that since the bubbles don't follow logic, they can't be blocked by anything in its path. Meaning that you basically have no way to defend yourself against this bubble. With that out of the way though, let's get to the final stand, being number 1, Wonder of You. This stand has the ability to control Calamity as a passive ability, meaning if you were to harm him or attack him in any way, the ability will automatically activate on its own. If you don't understand what I mean when I say Calamity though, let me simply explain. When this ability activates, Wonder of You will mess with logic to make something that shouldn't be possible, be possible. Like how he made rain become a lethal threat, made a cigarette blow through somebody's palm, or how somebody had a point blank shot in his face and a person ended up missing anyway. The only way to really beat this thing was to become above logic itself, like how Josuke did in Part 8. But even then, he still needed a little bit of help. But yeah, that basically concludes the list.